Welcome back, everyone. I'm Celia, the creator of Let's Talk Terror, and today we're diving into one of the wildest indie horror films I've seen lately, Dead Bloom. Imagine eco-horror, body horror, mutant, fruit, family trauma, and gore just wrapped all up into one. Joining me today is writer-director Domonic Paris and some of the cast and crew from Dead Bloom. And we'll be talking about environmental horror, the making of the film, practical effects, gross-out horror, and everything in between. So wash your produce, watch your step, and let's talk terror. All right, hello everyone. We are here to talk Dead Bloom, and I'm very excited because I have some very special people here. I'm gonna have you guys introduce yourselves. Domonic, you're up.
Yeah, hi, I'm Domonic Paris. I was the writer, director, and one of the producers on the film. And yeah, it was an experience that I did with my son Damien, who couldn't be here today, but we'll get into it.
I'm Danny Fehsenfeld. I played Matt, and I basically would be referred to as the husband of the beautiful lady down beneath me on the screen, Lilith. So that's pretty much my claim to fame, is getting to be her husband on screen.
That sounds nice.
He's a lucky guy. My name's Lilith, and I played Jules.
Awesome. Love it. Short and sweet. For those who have not seen Dead Bloom, Domonic, can you give me a rundown, a really quick, what's the story here? What is the movie about?
So the movie basically talks about it's an eco horror film. The consequences of a large corporate entity dumping chemicals on land that unfortunately was inhabited by people of color usually, or lower on the socioeconomic scale, thinking there's no consequence to it. And so it's a sort of generational horror because it happened many, many years ago. It affected the family unwittingly. The toxic chemical led to their demise in pretty gruesome way. And then the house was passed on to present day. So there's sort of three stages. We don't really get too much into the second inheritance. We just go with the present day after we have the opening prologue of the initial family and how they reacted to the chemical. And it explores the idea of, like I said, generational horror being perpetrated on people of lower socioeconomic strata and historically people of color. So we tried to elevate it into another realm of just horror. It has all the other usual, prerequisites of a horror movie, which we'll get into. But that, in a nutshell, is what the movie's about.
And yes, we definitely will get into it because I have a lot of things to say. We had some very, very crazy moments. And we're going to talk about these more serious aspects of the movie too. But first, let me ask, where did the idea for food-based horror come from? Was that just an idea like, hey, or did you see something somewhere and thought, oh, that sounds like something that I might want to pursue?
No, so just some backstory. So I've worked as a writer for many, many years. I've done all sorts of films. I have a huge career in animation, 3D animation feature films. I've done 7 of them that we've produced, and they play all over the world. Oddly enough, it's all kid stuff, Danny's been in one of the pictures that we've done before as voice talent. But I wrote and I write across many different genres. So I decided to return to my horror roots. The very first movie I ever did was a horror movie many, many moons ago called Last Rites. I never worked in the genre again until recently because Damien is a horror encyclopedia. He knows every movie ever made by all over the world. So I wrote a script a number of years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago, called Seeds. Of course, there are a million movies called Seeds. And the genesis of it was sort of, it didn't deal with a big pharma, but it was a toxic plant. that was affected by chemical dumping. So that was the genesis of the idea. And it went through many iterations. And then finally we decided, we should bring in that social context of it. But it wasn't like I've always thought about, like, do you know what's in that you're eating? That sort of thing. We all think about that, even more so today. We see the horrors of water contamination, like in Flint, Michigan, and other places in the country. So it's on everybody's mind, and everybody, particularly I think younger people, are always like, you can get a Yucca app, or whatever it's called. Let's see what's in there. Oh, it's got this, this, this. So it's something that is in our lives every day. So I thought like that would be a great way to take the onus off of just being a horror movie. Like, it wasn't going to be slasher. It wasn't going to be, the female lead with large breasts. You don't know her name and she's dead in the first 5 minutes. It wasn't going to be that. It was going to be something a little more deeper, and we wanted to do the family dynamic. Had we had more time than the 12 days we shot, I probably would have gotten a little more into the family. I would have done a sort of ordinary people approach to the family dynamic and how it breaks them down dramatically, but we had no time. We could barely have enough time to do all the prosthetic work and all the effects. But that is the origin story of how it came to be.
So, Sadie, now that you're here, can I get you to do a quick little introduction? Just tell me your name and your role in Dead Bloom.
Okay, I am Sadie Katz, and yes, I played fabulous Cassie.
Thank you.
Who is sister to Matt's character, Danny's character. Matt.
Yes, you two are siblings. We got whole family reunion almost. So we are talking about the idea behind all of this eco horror and whatnot. And I want to ask Danny, Lilith, and Sadie, what your experiences have been in not only in horror, but in body horror and eco horror. Have you guys ever done anything like this before?
Go for it, Sadie or Lilith.
It was my first time. This was actually my first feature, which I was super excited to be a part of because I love horror. The more gruesome, the better. And it was really great to have, more experienced actors, especially Sadie, because she is like the horror queen, which I'm sure you already knew. But I loved it. I'm all about it. It was a lot of fun to have the prosthetics and, having that be like my first experience with it was really great, and all the makeup. I just love all that stuff. So it was awesome.
Sadie.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, we instantly fall back into brother and sister. So I got to do, a lot of people know me from Wrong Turn, which is like, the basically gore, gore, gore. But I also did Blood Feast, the remake, which was actually authorized by Herschel Gordon Lewis, who arguably is like the godfather of all kind of body gross out horror. And so, audiences love this. Like, they just love it. And I think it's also so cool because it's the one thing that ends up staying like a practical effect. Because no one cares if it's CGI. Like, they want to see the actual things made. So it almost tips over into like, the special effects and makeup and all that. So I think there's something especially beautiful of, a bleeding, bloody heart.
I agree. It's people think horror people are weird for this, but it's like, no, there's something, you can't see this. You can't like appreciate what you're seeing on the screen. It's horrible. It's terrifying, and that's what makes it great. Danny, what about you?
I had never done horror before. My primary genres that I've done are comedy, period pieces, a lot of dramas, and I am often the villain. Even in the animation things that I voice, I often play the villain. But I think that's more so because I can drop my voice low. And horror was just something I didn't watch a lot of because most of the ones I had seen just seemed so silly to me. It never really scared me. Unless they had like some sort of spiritual element, I just thought they were goofy. But when I read the script, what I loved about it was that it had a redeeming story, especially for my character. And that's important to me because I feel like a lot of stories these days, I'll get through a movie and I think, what was the point of that? Like, like I don't understand the journey you took me on or what the outcome was. Like, you couldn't have bookended this any better. You spent years of your life, and this is what you made me spend my time watching. But when I read the script, I really liked that my character laid down his life for his family, and that's something that to me is a healthy part of humanity, and especially the kind of person that I want to be as a man. And so I sunk my teeth into it, and what I discovered was, just like both of these ladies said, that not only was it so fun to deal with the prosthetics and the makeup and everything, but Dominic and his wife Gina in particular, as well as their son Damien, made it just a real familial setting, and they were so committed to every aspect of storytelling to make it a beautiful experience on the artist, but also just to like give it their all to make sure that it was the best that it could be. And you don't get a lot of that in filmmaking. And so we just all kind of jumped in, made this collaborative effort that I just made it a wonderful experience for me. Yeah.
I like how you brought up how some filmmakers just make trash. And honestly, I love it. It does not matter to me. But I do kind of get that feeling sometimes. It's like, oh, you did all this and for what? Dead Bloom has, it may be this like shocking, gross movie. We mentioned all the effects and prosthetics, which we'll talk about more later, but there's like this emotional core to it, and I want to know, Dominic, how important was it for you to have that included in there? Because some people can take it or leave it, but other people like that rooted, like emotional. No, there's actually a story here.
Yeah, well, um, everything that I write, including the animated features, which are obviously cartoon characters and all, everything is predicated on the human condition. So without the human condition, you have nothing that's going to anchor your storytelling. You have to be honest to that, and of course, then that's your jumping off point. So it was very important in the sense that, I mean, everything that I write has that. I don't like to evangelize or proselytize. Even with the animation, it was always set against, can we strive to tell a story, a love story of two turtles, for example, which I wrote, Sammy's Adventures, set against all the ecological changes in the world, like the Exxon Valdez oil spill, changing climate, deforestation, so on and so forth. So it has an anchor in a human condition. So that was very important. The thing that I want to say was that because I've worked on, like I said, a number of movies, and it's always difficult when you have limited time and the big parking meter is ticking in the sky, right? So you need to make choices. And I have to commend all the actors that they were very committed to doing their homework and their work. There were times when, once again, it was Damien's first effort as a feature film. I sort of wanted him to have that experience, and I let him run with stuff. But at times I had to step in because I have a bigger experience and I know how to get to a certain place better, more economically, because I've had to do it many times before. So there were a couple of times when Danny or someone would ask me to beat out a scene, and we would work on it, and we'd beat out the beats within the scene and whatnot. But I have to say, everybody came to the movie with, I think, a real purpose to do the best they could do. And I have to say also that Gina, the producer, we really treated everybody with respect. There wasn't like pizza for dinner. You know what I mean? It sounds small, but as you know, it's not. Everybody had accommodations, their own hotel room, or if they didn't mind sharing, they shared a hotel room, a full breakfast in the morning at the hotel. So, and we never worked really long days. I think only a couple of times it was a 10 or 12-hour day. We never pulled it. I've been on many shoots that work an 18-hour day. Diminishing returns, you can't do that. So we had that respect. We knew that we were up against it because we only had 12 days. But in spite of that, I think we're determined to make it a great experience for everybody because I think they would, in return, do the best they could do. And I'm of the mind that you can never fault anybody if they're earnest in their effort and really are gung ho. Now, you talk about special effects. You know what it's like. You got blood all over you. You've got, and it's like, Lilith was a champ. I have to say, Lilith being her first movie, you would never know that because we put her through the mill when it came to being uncomfortable. The birth scene, for example. The birth scene was, as you saw it, right? Okay. We had 1/4 of our budget was in special effects. 1/4. And we still had problems. We had to take over many times because some of the on-set people were not that knowledgeable how to make it work and how to do it very quickly. Because it's like, we don't have 4 hours for this effect. We gotta figure it out now. So we took over the birth scene, and it was myself, I think the gaffer and the key grip, and we made that sort of little rig that went over. Now they made the prosthetic of the belly, but we made the rig that went over here so we could get underneath and push the big hand up that went like this and all that. So it was a real team effort. But she never complained, at least not to me. I don't know if she went into the closet and said, God damn them or whatever. But that, I think, is a testament to why some movies will work, others don't. And that isn't to say, because you have some movies that people are horrendous on and they're still good movies. But, I don't want to live my life like that. I don't want to be called out and say, what an asshole that guy was. I would never work with him again unless they paid me really well. I don't want to be that guy, So,
Yeah, let me just second that. Like, Sadie is a seasoned vet actress in the business, and so we expect greatness from her. But coming into a movie when we know someone has not done a feature before, oftentimes what you get are people that they don't understand the camera, so they're acting. And so a lot of what directors and co-stars are having to do is finding a way to tone people down. Sadie showed up like she was a seasoned, I'm sorry, Lilith showed up like she was a seasoned actress and brought it. And it made it so great. Not only was her performance great, but for those of us who have been in a lot of sets, it just, from day one, we just sunk right in, and she was phenomenal, as you can see in the movie.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks,
I
guys.
think you all did a good job. Now, I want to talk to the two ladies here. Uh, so, Sadie, it looks like you have a child. Hello, child. And Lilith, I don't want to pry, but do you have kids?
I do not.
Okay. How was it filming that birth scene? Because I do have a child, and he was a C-section, so this was especially like, oh, for me. How what was that like? Where did you pull from if you don't have kids?
Well, there was no epidural, so
Yeah, yeah.
it was sticky. Um, I was on the floor for God knows how long. Oh my gosh, it was.
cement floor. It was a
Oh,
cement
Yeah,
floor. There's no pillow there either.
yeah. It was a hard, cold basement floor. It was super sticky. My shower that night was probably the best shower I've ever had in my life.
I bet.
Um, but I spent a lot of my own time kind of discovering Jules. I feel that even before, we got on set, I really knew who she was as a character. I think that there was a lot of similarities and a lot of crossover, from her being a visual artist to, being somewhat estranged from her family, to, being excited. For me, I have a brother. We have a 19-year age gap, and I didn't find out about him until he was like 2 years old. And like I kind of
Okay.
knew, that excitement and what that all felt like. So although I don't have kids and I will definitely have kids someday, I feel like I already had somewhat of an idea of like who she was as a person, and it was easier for me to step into that. So I kind of spent a lot of my own time mapping that out in my own like work with myself. But yeah, when it did come to the birth scene and all of that, It's interesting because it's like it was Jules, but it wasn't at that point. Like everyone was kind of starting to change, and although her transformation wasn't as extensive as some of the other characters, where the plant fully had them, I felt like she at that point she wasn't quite the person who we saw in the beginning, right? So I do think that at that moment of birthing, there was a lot sort of happening. Like everyone is sort of transforming at the same time, and we're at the height of it in that moment. But yeah, I think it just kind of, I was able to sort of ease into her as a character, as a mom. It wasn't like the first time I had played a mom before, but I do feel like just in general, I have like a very, like I've always wanted to be a mom. I have a very maternal instinct. Like I guess I would say I'm like a nurturing person. And sometimes I just feel like I'm a kid myself. So it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was like too far-fetched.
But the great thing about her is that she has this incredible guttural scream that sounds so, right for the moment. It wasn't just a scream. It felt like it was coming from really inside, like that whole process. It wasn't just like, screams can be like, ah, and they're all kind of the same. This came from here and it just kind of belched out. You know what I mean? Just kind of came out like the baby was coming out. So in that sense, I think it was all your acting in the moment. You were really, really in it. And you talk about a C-section. This was far beyond a C-section.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Well, I asked Lilith I asked Lilith where she got her motivation, and she said, well, I had to look at you the whole time I was acting. So
I understand that.
Yeah, it wasn't like I didn't need to have that, like, ear-piercing scream, because I don't, like, that's just not my voice, and I was like, man, I don't have that scream, but I didn't need that for that scene, which was great. It was like straight up less, I mean, fear, of course, but like definitely a lot of pain. It was more of a pain than like oh shit, I just saw something around the corner and it's chasing me now. It wasn't that type of horror scream.
And the makeup was fantastic, because the makeup, for me, that was one of the better moments in terms of makeups. I mean, I saw every detail of the makeups, and I can, rate them on a scale of like 1 to 10. But the makeup for Lilith was just kind of horrifying because it felt real. It wasn't like, like pulling the dick off, you know what I mean? Which was half vegetable, and we'll talk about that later. This was really organic.
Wait, was that something in the movie or something in your everyday life? Because please clarify.
Yes.
I got 5 kids, so don't worry about that. But, I really felt like her makeup was right on with all it was not so far gone that, you disassociated from her and said she's a monster. She still was a mom birthing. That's, I think, what makes it more horrifying. She was real. If she was a hideous monster, you would just go, oh, full on Monsterville. But it wasn't that, It was mom giving birth to a kid. And what was this kid going to be like? That was the other thing,
That's a perfect transition, because Sadie, you didn't have a birthing scene, but you did have an asshole son. And seeing him go from like just a normal, like I would say a little bit older than teen, but a normal like Gen Z person to just a complete, oh, I don't even have a word for it, just a disaster. What was that like? Because
is that a normal Gen Z person?
Well, as a millennial, I don't know.
Yeah, we're screwed.
I actually love that you said that, because I do think they're like, first I got off on barely having, I don't think I really got any blood on me other than helping birth the baby. And Lilith was an absolute rock star. And Danny, because, like one thing about doing horror films is you have to jump like 150%. And if you don't, you just look ridiculous. So it's really fun when you're like, okay, you look over because she's like, oh, I haven't done this before. And all of a sudden I'm hearing like, ah, and her commitment with 100%. And Danny's like, and they made me cry. So anyway, I just had to say, like, I actually, in the scene, I was really, that's the best case scenario as an actor, is that you're feeding off the other actors. And I was, emotionally, definitely feeling what they were doing. Yeah, writer, it's like, when I read the script, I thought, how do we forgive Cassie for being such a bad mother? And you never want to judge your characters, but it is, I thought, my son's going to be 25 and I have a 3-year-old, and they're both very interesting boys, especially my 3-year-old can be, he's a wild monkey. And I think there's something kind of about the script that's great about like this body horror, and like kids today, look, all kids are scary at that age. Kids are terrifying. So I thought it was really like this fun metaphor for like the fear of, you have a boy and they become like these sexual creatures, and not always as kind or as PC as they should be. So in some ways, like, I loved interacting with Ryder because it felt real to me, like something you relate to. Your kid at times you love, but they're a monster and you make excuses for them. You're like, I know he's really bad, but he's going through it, and kids will be kids. Like, there's kind of like this blind, eye that you have to do. Not that neither of my sons are as crazy as Ryder, but I did think it was like understandable and where Cassie was coming from, and like maybe not wanting to acknowledge what a monster he was. Like, this is my monster right now.
I like what Sadie told me one time. She said, when she goes, with Ryder doing what he does in the film and progressing like that, she was worried that the audience is going to think, man, she's really a bad mom and she's such an asshole because he's getting away with all this shit. So she worried that people were going to like not like her as a character because of Ryder being out of control. But I really think that when you get to be Ryder's age, you don't really have control. You think you might have some control, you don't really have control. These kids are going to do what they're going to do in front of you, and more often than not when you're not around, which is the case.
Yeah, I agree. At first I was like, man, Cassie need to get her life together, because what is this? But by the end, I think you redeemed yourself. I understood as a mom. I mean, my son is 5, and thank God he is not any of what Ryder is, but like, man, I can only imagine what it would be like to have a budding adult that is incestuous and just a terrible person. And it's
Yeah,
like,
you redeemed yourself. You
sometimes
blew
it's
his head
not your
off.
fault. Sometimes it's not your fault. You try, but like you can only do so much.
I think one of the things was I really honestly got choked up when I read it in the script, and even saying it was like hard for me to get the words out, because as a mom, you just like, that is like the biggest fear ever. And so it's like primal. And there was so many things in Dead Bloom that to me were like these really primal, relatable issues, and like the family dynamic, but also, environmental. And I think as an actor, sometimes if someone gives you a world that's that hot, you just like jump in like a little kid, and you look around and you're like, he's growing a plant out of his nether regions, and you're there. Like, you don't have to, like, there's not a lot of prepping. You're not like sitting there listening to music. You're like, I don't want to curse, but we're like,
Oh, you can curse. You're free to curse. Go ahead.
we're freaking in it right now.
Mama.
So
It's like what Leon said to you. He's not your boy anymore. So he basically gave you sort of the license to realize that's not your son anymore. So you had to do what you had to do. You were basically, it was almost like mercy, because there was no turning back for him. He was too far gone. And so that was the heartbreaking moment when you come in that little circling, and we really struggled in editing, and I just wanted to just put a little context to these emotional moments. So when you're shooting something and then we had a fantastic DP, Matt Clammer, who was really fantastic. You don't have a lot of coverage a lot of times, or you put all your stock into a little Dana Dolly move, and you're going from a wide to a medium to a close up, whatever it is, right? And of course, when you get to editing, it may not be the right timing. So we had to manufacture a lot of stuff, which we did. And that moment when she says, Ryder, what's happened to you, baby? And he says, Mama, I think I really messed up. We didn't want her to jump right into, that's not your boy, shoot him, boom. We wanted this moment of seeing some kind of shred of humanity in his eyes, like this poor kid, but she knows what she has to do. So that's the conundrum, you know? So the mom does the right thing for her son, and it's painful. And I think that's what makes that scene work, that we didn't rush through it like bang and he's dead, you know? And that's always the problem with a lot of movies that are low budget. They spend a lot of time talky, second act particularly, where obviously we had to slow down the second act, and you don't get the opportunity to really explore those moments to really fully play out the emotional context within the scene. But we did for that one, luckily, you know.
Now, we keep referencing these transformations, and I want you guys to tell me, was there any kind of like, where did the idea for how the look of people who ate the fruit come from, about the fruit itself? Like, was there anything like, oh, this plant looks cool, let's use a little bit of this? Where did all that come from?
Well, I made all the plants, but those weren't the first. I made all the plants. So, you know, I have an art background. You know, I did all the paintings, I did all the drawings that supposedly were done by the other family members. They were all kind of my art and whatnot. So it was very important to me to have a look to it that I felt was sort of pained. You know, like there's some of the drawings, some of my paintings, people always think they're about some sort of pain, but they're really about transcendence. And I wanted to express that in the movie. But yeah, I mean, we also worked, like, for example, the penis thing. That was that was many iterations, and finally we hired a guy who did the drawings, and then we had a sculptor, and they sculpted it, and we said, yeah, you know what I mean? So we kind of like took it and just went with it a little bit. Now, there are other effects that didn't quite work out. He got his arm shot off, you know, and it's like, that didn't work, so we cut it out of the movie. And at some point, it's like we didn't need to go full on. Like, it would have been funny if we just have things keep falling off them. That might have been a different kind of movie. It might have been a trauma movie, you know what I mean? So we didn't want to make it a trauma movie. But like I said, we tried, you know, the other character, Eddie, he gets his head blown off, half his head. So I don't know, you know, and then the eye gouging. I mean, we try to just make the moments seem not that gratuitous. And I think we achieved that, you know. There wasn't that many moments that we felt. I mean, the opening with the black family in the beginning was really interesting because that was all a set we made down in the basement, you know. I went and bought all these bricks from China and that you stick on, you know, and we just took 3 walls, and we went there the week before and did this stuff. I got to tell you, though, the location, we shot it all in one location, except for the OBGYN scene. That was at my house in another
in the very first
ADU
scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So we shot it all in one house in Leona Valley. And the crazy owner, RG was his name, he said we could do whatever we wanted. Yeah, you mentioned
Is
about
he
blood.
sure about that?
Oh yeah. If you would have met
Well, we
this
did.
guy oh yeah, and we did. I mean, he had a beard. He was like a crazy artist who repurposed everything and turned it into like art. Whatever it was, he made it something else. And he was like, "Hey, bro, don't worry, bro. Do whatever you want, bro. I like the color." So we sprayed blood everywhere. I mean, we cleaned it up, but it was like blood. What place would let you ever do that? But this place, they let us do anything we wanted. It was crazy. You know, like I said, we took downstairs over and made a lot of different alterations, but it was wild. But we got very lucky. We got very lucky for the location. It became a character in the movie. It really did for us.
Yes.
Everyone had their own transformation. Like, it wasn't like everybody, grew a million arms and turned green or
Yeah.
something. It was like everyone had their own transformation based on however the plant had affected them. So like whether it was through the water, whether it was taking a bath, just having the
Eating it.
plant straight up, yeah, eating it as is. So it's like that all kind of affected everyone's transformation. So that was really interesting too. It wasn't like all the same thing. So it for the people who were there till the end, the characters who were there until the end, it's like you kind of don't really notice everything because it's like, oh, it's not like it's happening to, it doesn't seem like it may be happening to everybody.
Right.
Like Matt gets like all this strength, right? And all these different things start to happen before it all turns sour. But that was really fun too because we all had different kind of like symptoms, as we went into it. And when it did come to all the gruesome stuff, like I do feel like a lot of low budget horrors kind of throw it in there for the sake of throwing it in there without there really being a point, and things get like really gross and you're kind of like, okay, like is there a point to this? But everything was like very intentional, which was really great.
So just a few questions left, guys. We're going to do some bonus fun time questions. First and foremost, I want you guys to tell me what your favorite scene was out of the whole movie. Doesn't have to be one you were in. If it is, cool. If not, just what was your favorite part of the movie?
I mean, I know for me was the smoking scene with my sister because so much of my other duties were to be the head of responsibility, exploration, discovery, figure things out, try to connect with my wife. But when we got to that scene, it was about true emotional connection. And Sadie and I had already developed a really good friendship on set. And so just to be able to connect with her as a person within these characters was really fun for me.
I mean, it's funny, like the best moments are in sometimes when you do a horror film aren't about the horror. And there was like, I really, it's really great when you're shooting something and for a second, like you are in it and you're like, this really happened. And it almost is like later on when I look back at it, it's almost becomes a memory. Like it's very interesting. But I will say, Danny and Lilith, when they have their death scene at the end, sorry, I'm doing like a spoiler. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
but I really like Shay gives this look to them. And I mean, I really had it's so ridiculous because they are really, obviously, and then you have the baby involved. But when we leave them and look back, and there's a pool of light, they did a really good job lighting that scene. And like Danny and Lilith were really heartbreaking while also having over the top, like, they were like zombified and there was blood. And it's like, that's the best part. Like a good horror film, I don't care if it's $1 billion or $1, is when you're having like a real moment. It's the difference of like, all these verticals aren't really about having a moment like that. But horror, when it's done well, has that moment. And I thought that it was the lighting on that scene, that pool of light. And Dominic, did it go completely to black?
No, you guys came and made it go to black as you came towards the camera. We then accentuated it to go fully black before you went up the steps.
Yeah, it just killed me. Like it honestly killed me. And I looked back and I had like really, a suspension of disbelief there. So I think that's my favorite scene. And then, for me, I kind of got to not do as much in the horror world. So I had like, not all of it made the final cut as happens. But to me, it was like one of my projects that I've done that was the most about relationship and story. And it was really fun to play in that world with Danny, and he had to carry all the crazy, transformation. And I got to kind of play with the fact that Cassie was too busy with her own problems to even notice that he's going into a zombie, which is
I have a question for you, Sadie. When you were, when Lilith and I were lying on the floor, and you looked back and you were deeply emotionally moved, whose acting moved you the most?
The baby.
definitely
The baby.
The baby.
the baby. You know what? And I have to throw out a little thing to Shay. Shay was given like 100% too, so she had
Yeah.
like the tears going, and I mean, everyone was kind of like had some like authentic stuff happening.
Yeah. Yeah, Betsy was really, she was on it all the time. She really had that great mix of that sort of defiance, sassiness, I can do this on my own,
Yeah.
and vulnerability and the emotionality of it all. She had all of that going on. The other thing I just wanted to say was that, there are moments in the movie that were, as often is the case, but there are two moments in the movie that were totally not in the script, unintended. One is in the very beginning with the family. The two black girls are doing patty cake. That is not a scene in the script or written. They were off camera waiting for setup playing, and my DP just decided to shoot it.
I
saw that in dailies later. I said, wait a second. It made me think of right away In Cold Blood, where, Quincy Jones has that soundtrack that's percussive. I said, wouldn't it be great against what is impending doom is going to happen, their playfulness that they had no idea. So that was not intended. Then there's three shots. One is of Sadie, one is of Caleb, who played Ryder, and one is of Betsy, where the three shots were basically them waiting for action to be called, or we had cut and they were just still staying in character. We slowed it down and moved each one to create these moments that didn't exist in the script and was not even planned in the shooting. They were just like heads or tails of, the shot before we called cut or action. So those are the kind of things you always talk about, unexpected moments. We needed those. We needed more of those. And we made that one at the end where we pull back slowly from the entire room before we pop out into the car. Those were intentional. But sometimes those other shots, and man, without them, it would be really different because they added texture and subtext to it. So you never know. You just got to be open to the possibilities,
I like how you guys have all these like heartfelt scenes. And I'm just here like, my favorite is when his penis got ripped off. That was the best part.
Well, the audiences go wild when all that stuff's happening.
Oh, it was so great.
over the top.
I'm so here for penises getting ripped off all the time because you always, don't get me wrong. I love seeing boobs on screen. It's great. It's horror. But at the same time, it's like, yes, give it to the men. Let's see something bad happen to them. It's so great. So
I do have to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I didn't realize, like, my journey in horror. I didn't when I did Wrong Turn and we had a big premiere for Scarefest or Screamfest. Sorry, and there was like literally like 1,000 people. It was the giant theater, and they have a scene where they like blow up someone's ass, right? And everyone like got to their feet and were like screaming at the screen. And then I went, I get it. Like the horror fans, like they love it. And it's really kind of exciting to see a lot of like these TikTok horror reviewers and yourself who are like, the kills were crazy. I'm always like, you don't really have a horror film if you don't have good gore and kills. And what's funny is filmmakers and sometimes as actors, we like, we have to be nudged. We're like, oh, is it too much? And I'm always like, it's never enough. Like, keep doing more blood, keep doing that. Because the fans just dig it. They love it. And I really loved that they said they were doing, like Domonic and Gina and Damien were like, we're doing a body modification horror. And I was like, okay, let's see if it really is that. Because that term isn't always like respected in the genre. And this one, like the penis scene, and I love that they just like let it be extra and Caleb is genius. Like he was so.
This, by the way, was his first movie. He had
Oh
never
my
made a
God.
movie before. Yeah, Caleb never made a movie before. And I got to tell you a little context. He comes from a very religious family, and his mother almost pulled the plug on it in the beginning because he created a foundation for abused women in his name back in Michigan or Wisconsin or something. So she was worried this would sully. I go, you know it's a movie, you're acting. It's not you, you're acting. Robert De Niro, we had to give him all the mother, all these examples. Robert De Niro did this and this and this and this. And it was like, almost a bridge too far. But then finally we worked it out. He reconciled it with his mom, who was his manager at the time. She backed off, went back to Michigan, because she actually was here in the beginning. She went back to Michigan, and Caleb bought into it totally, 100%. He was like game for anything. And he really, really, I think, makes that character really believable. It was him all the way, So major props to him. First time ever on camera, and it was like fantastic. And he heard when all his buds came to the theater when we had the first premiere, they were screaming. They were laughing and screaming like it was so outrageous. They were going, dude, So it was fun.
I love that. Props to him. And it's funny that she would not really want this to negatively affect the foundation because in my eyes, like not that I don't want to promote violence against men, but it's like, yeah, that's what happens to men who do things to women. Like,
Yeah, you castrate them
yeah,
to some
yeah.
degree.
We used to.
Whether it be physically or emotionally, you should castrate them in some way. Exactly. So it's a metaphor, but you're right. Absolutely right.
Danny,
didn't
what,
plan
you were saying something?
I was saying the societies throughout the world, throughout history, have done exactly that.
Yeah.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. So speaking of penises and all this,
Oh,
which dead bloom victim do you think had the worst death? Like you would not.
oh, that's not the question I thought you were going to ask.
Oh no. No, who had the worst death in your opinion?
The worst death. Well, I don't know what's worse. For me, I would say the guy that got his eyes poked out,
Yeah.
or myself and my wife, because most of those guys were instantaneous. They got their head blown off, whatever. We had to morph into something non-living, and that's a painful process.
Yeah.
I think also because in the script it was explicitly designed to be that they know at that point they're at the point of no return. They know when they go down there in that darkness, they're never going to leave that and that black void. And they are still there's a shred of them as being cognizant enough to say, "I love you," and take care of this baby. You don't know what's going to happen with that baby. You don't know because all the ones that are in the car, what's her name? Betsy has been microdosing. She runs afterwards. She drops her crutch. She's been microdosing it. And of course, Cassie doesn't have any effect. It hasn't been affected. But you don't know. And Leon, of course, you know what his story is too. But you don't really know about what's going to happen to that baby. So I think that for them, they still had that humanity. And I think it's tragically sad and that's why I think Sadie was, talking about that moment. You look back is like they still embrace each other and they fall back into each other's arm amidst the evisceration of her body and the blood and the goo and the darkness of it. It's like that's the blank emptiness of it all, and that's what you're left with. And so when Betsy closes that door, she knows, and that's purposeful, it goes to black. You're never going to open that door again, hopefully. You don't want to see that ever again. It's boom, that door shuts, and then it's on to the next chapter and that's why we do that slow zoom to leave all that behind. Sort of the aftermath. It's almost poetic, but it's not. It's horrific, but it's done in a way that makes it sort of like that silent, like, after all you've seen in the movie,
Sadie,
Until part two.
Until part two.
Right?
It's called The Return of Matt.
Yeah. The return of Matt.
Matt and Matt only.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have to say, like, of course, writers writer's death is awesome. Like, I'm just talking as like a horror nerd. That's really awesome. But there's something about having like your eyes poked out. I feel like, like when we saw it at the premiere, everyone was like, ah.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's kind of a little thing, like as far as everything, but it's so like it's like that and having like fingernails pulled off. Like they're both things
That's real. That's real. I mean, pulling your intestines out, it's gross, but it's not real per se. You can't relate to it. You go, I can't imagine me ever pulling my intestines out, but I can imagine my eyes being gouged out, right? Because that's a real thing. That's a real physical thing.
That's
the
a
other
good
was just
point.
so over the top, that we wanted to show that world of like, I mean, technically he would have been dead, I guess. You have a lot of intestines, but so there you go.
Next question: apples or oranges?
Oh,
What's
like
your
what we
favorite?
like to eat? Apples.
Apples.
oranges, and I like to eat the pill. I eat the whole thing.
Oh, you're one of those. Ew.
Of what? An orange? You said? You said orange?
Yeah, and I
No
eat
wonder
I
you're the
always
horror
eat the
queen.
whole thing.
You eat the rind? That's too
Yeah,
much.
I eat it like first I eat the inside and then I eat the outside, and I think it's delicious.
It's one thing if it's like candied or something, but like just straight peel. Ooh, that's not too like bitter for you.
Well, I think it started with my love of oranges, orange rinds, and whiskey. So it was
Okay.
my gateway, and now I
The
Okay,
horror.
I can
don't,
see
don't
that.
look like you don't know, Danny.
I've never eaten orange peels.
Ever.
Honestly. No.
Yeah.
I've never had any alcohol ever.
Whoa.
I've
Good
never
for
jumped out of a
you.
plane.
Oh,
You
well,
never did what?
Never
Sometimes
jumped out of a plane. I'm just thinking things I never did.
put down a finger if you've never done this.
I solo jumped out of an airplane, but
Oh my goodness. You can have
You win. You win.
Right, you win. So if someone handed you the dead bloom fruit right now and promised it tasted so good it was going to fix your whole life, how much money would it take you to actually eat it? The whole thing.
do we
One
know,
whole fruit.
do we know what it is?
No. All you know is what this person tells you, and this
No,
person
I
says it
don't
tastes
trust
so
I don't
good.
trust anyone. You can't pay me enough. I don't trust people in general.
Me either. I would never eat it either. I mean, it's just talking to a guy who's never tasted alcohol. I don't have any religious reasons for it, but no, I wouldn't do that.
You're not missing much,
I
I don't
guarantee
think.
you Sadie would do it for $5.
I was like, hold on, why do we have to get paid? I
There you
people
go.
solve things. Like I am literally, I haven't got this, but I'm always threatening. And I had a production company where it was like Eve and like the snake around Eve's hand and she's biting in the apple. I would be like, how much can I bite and it not like, let's say I get really sick. I don't know. I'm a risk taker. My kids saved me, or I would probably really make a mess of things. But yes, I would absolutely bite it. You wouldn't have to pay me.
Okay.
Good to know.
I know her well.
All right, last question before we do a little wrap up. If Dead Bloom were a flavor, what flavor would that fruit be?
Blood orange.
Oh,
Good.
that's a good one.
What about kiwi fruit? I don't know why. It's why do
Well, green kiwi or golden kiwi?
Ooh, I don't know. Green. Something about kiwis. It was really. It's slimy on the inside and furry on the outside. It's a weird fruit.
I would say a
kiwis.
pomegranate. I would say a pomegranate for me because it has all those seeds in it, which I do not like. It's just too scary looking. I don't like all that seeds and everything like that. I like simplicity. If it's too
Yeah.
complex, no.
Yeah.
All
Fair.
right. Last question. What's next on the agenda for you guys? More movies?
Well, I can't really say, but I'm involved in two projects right now. One is begun and the other one is in development as well. Yeah. A little different than what we've been involved. But I'm also involved in the expansion of the Dead Bloom um, um story
Okay.
universe, shall we say? And I can't tell you anymore because we just signed an NDA, and
Well,
and
I'll be here when you're ready. So,
yeah. So it's actually very exciting, and it just really, the thing is, like, the Tom Sanko story is a story that isn't fully explained in the movie, but it has an origin that started in 1934. There is a history of this fictitious uh, corporation, and we are exploring that in a series of projects. Yeah. So yeah, it's actually pretty exciting what we're doing. So I'll let you know
okay.
all about it when I can.
All right, I'll be here.
Okay, you guys, next. What's going?
Sadie.
What's Sadie doing?
Sadie.
Danny and I are sitting by our phone, Dominic. I'm just kidding. I'm not though. But yeah, right now I actually just moved to Tennessee, so this is the longest I haven't shot anything in at least a decade. So I'm a little like, what am I gonna do next? I actually right now I have some films coming out on physical media, which is having. So I'm like promoting that and. I have a big project that I wrote that hopefully will get going. So I'm being a little choosy about the next horror film I do. I want it to, I've done so many films. After a while, I'm like, okay, I want something that, like, Dead Bloom has a lot of substance and means something. So, yeah, we'll see. That's my way of being like, I don't know what my next big project is, except something I wrote called "Burn It Down," or I co-wrote, and that's going to be like a detour for me, and Dead Bloom too, right?
Cool. For me, I've got a premiere on June 11th of a movie I'm starring in with Kevin Sorbo called The Flood, End of Mankind. That's going to be at Warner Brothers. Comes to theaters in October. I've got voicemails for Isabel with Zoe Kravitz, with Zoe Deutsch and Nick Robinson. That hits June 19th on Netflix. And then I've got Anomaly that I'm starring in episode 4 of, which is a big alien cult favorite right now on social media. They think they have 1 million views on their first episode. So pretty excited about that. I had a blast shooting that. Yeah, and just in development as well. I'm wanting to put myself more in the driver's seat, so helping to put together a little thing with a company that I'm hoping is really successful. But it puts me in the driver's seat because I'm often in the passenger seat. Actors are you're always saying someone's lines, being told where to stand and all that. And I've done that for a lot of years, and I'll continue doing that. And I love that part of the artistry. But I'm very curious about wearing more production, directorial hats, and I've been encouraged to do that for a long time. And I want to explore that a bit. So yeah.
Is there any last thing anyone wants to say about Dead Bloom?
Could I just say one more thing? Because I do have a movie coming out called Cursed Waters, and it's one of the last Mahal films, which, if you're familiar with that world, they kind of took over like crowdfunding and raised the most money for any movie, indie movie. So I just wanted to throw that out there, and I think it's coming out in the next 2 months, and that's like a pirate zombie.
Oh yeah, I saw the trailer. That looks good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you'll see a lot of familiar faces, but I'll kick myself if I don't bring that up. So.
All right.
But how do you kick yourself? How's that even possible?
Find a
You
way.
are flexible. The last thing I would say about Dead Bloom is that go see it. You can
Yes.
watch it on Amazon Prime. You can watch it on Tubi. I think there's a number of places you can watch it on. It's a really fun, also suspenseful, well-made, independent. And I don't even think it matters that it's independent, because I've seen a lot of studio movies that are crap. This is an independent movie, but it's a good movie, and you should watch it.
It's nicely
Yes.
shot. Shout out
We love indie
shout out
movies.
to our crew. We had a very small crew. Essentially had a key grip, a gaffer, and a DP, and we had a 25 to 250 zoom lens that he handheld for a lot of it because he's a beast of a DP. So he really is a talented DP. I'd work with him any other time. My sound man was fantastic. He did a lot of stuff. He was on Sugar, which I guess the new season of Sugar comes out with whatever his name is. And our composer Garrett works with Ramin Djawadi. Ramin does House of Dragons and all that, and
Game of
he
Thrones.
did my movies. So the score is fantastic, and and they'll work with us anytime because they're family. So we're hoping to have them involved with all our other projects as well. So
All the projects that he's doing that will also involve Sadie and I, which is what he meant to say.
Yes.
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And please review it. I always say to fans, like, the really wonderful thing you could do, and thank you so much for having us on. And, it's like such a gift, is if you watch the movie and you like it, and even if you don't, but I know you do, please review it, because it does really help filmmakers, and it brings also the movie up in the algorithm and all the things that we're looking for to get something out there. And thank you for also putting up with my peanut.
No problem at all. I totally get it. And that is Dead Bloom. A huge, huge thank you to Domonic, Danny, Lilith, and Sadie for joining me and giving us all a behind the scenes look at the movie. If you're a fan of practical effects and eco horror, then definitely check out Dead Bloom. It's streaming right now on Amazon Prime. And if you like this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with the rest of your horror friends. And until next time, stay spooky, stay gross, and keep talking terror.